In this lecture, we will talk about using if statements with lists. You can do some interesting work when you combine lists and if statements. You can watch for special values that need to be treated differently than other values in the list. You can manage changing conditions efficiently, such as the availability of certain items in a restaurant throughout a shift. You can also begin to prove that your code works as you expect it to in all possible situations. Checking for special items. So let's continue with the pizza example. The pizza displays a message whenever a topping is added to your pizza as it is being made. The code for this action can be written very efficiently by making a list of toppings the customer has requested and using a loop to announce each topping as it is added to the pizza. So request toppings is a list with 4 items, with 3 items, then with a for loop for each value, each item in the requested toppings list will print adding this topping. And outside of the for loop, then print a final message with a new line, finished making your pizza. But what if the pizza runs out of green peppers? And if statement inside the for loop can handle this situation appropriately. So this is requested toppings. And for requested topping in requested toppings is each value in this list, a for loop, then check each value if is equal to green peppers. So if this condition is true, the requested topping is green peppers, then we'll print, sorry, we are out of green peppers right now. And if it is not green peppers, then we will run the else block, will print adding this topping. And outside of the for loop, we'll print a final message, finished making your pizza. And checking that a list is not empty. Sometimes it is useful to check whether a list is empty before running a for loop. As an example, let's check whether the list of requested toppings is empty before building the pizza. So if the list is empty, we will prompt the user and make sure they want a plain pizza. And if the list is not empty, we will build the pizza just as we did in the previous example. So here we create a requested toppings with an empty list. Bracket empty list with no items inside. So we check using if statement, if requested topping when the name of a list is used in an if statement, Python returns true if the list contains at least 1 item. An empty list evaluates to false. So here if requested toppings, because the requested topping has no at least 1 item. So this statement conditional test will be false. So because this is false, so we will run the else part. Just print, are you sure you want a plain pizza? But if the requested toppings has at least 1 item, then the if block, this block will be run. In this example, the else block will be run. And using multiple lists, what if a customer actually wants French fries on their pizza? You can use lists and if statements to make sure your input makes sense before you act on it. So let's watch out for unusual topping requests before we build a pizza. The following example defines 2 lists. The first is a list of available toppings at the pizzeria, and the second is the list of toppings that the user has requested. This time, each item in requested toppings is checked against the list of available toppings before it is added to the pizza. So this code, first we create two lists. One is available toppings in this pizzeria shop. This available toppings. And then the requested toppings are mushrooms, French fries, and extra cheese. So next is a for loop. For requested topping in requested toppings. So we check every element in this requested toppings list which customers has required. So then for each this value, next is a conditional test. If this value requests topping in the available toppings list, this available toppings list. So check each requested topping. If in available toppings, then we print adding this requested topping. But if this test is failed, then we'll run this line. So sorry, we don't have requested toppings. Then outside of the for loop, we'll print a new line, then finish the making a pizza. We will show all these codes in Anaconda Spider. So lecture 3, using if statements with lists. We're checking for special items. So we learn requested topping is a list. Then for each requested topping, in requested topping, we print adding requested topping. Run this. Then adding mushroom, adding green peppers, adding extra cheese, and no any conditional tests. Then this is the final line outside of this block. But if the pizzeria runs out of green peppers, then we create this the same for the requested topping. Then for requested topping, in requested toppings, we have conditional test, if else test. So if requested toppings is green peppers, then we print sorry, we are out of green peppers right now. But if it is not green peppers, we will print adding this requested topping. So here the adding mushroom, but for the green pepper, sorry, we are out of green peppers right now, and add extra cheese. And this is the final statement, the message. And check that a list is not empty. So first we'll create an empty list for the requested topping. Then we'll have a if-else block. If requested topping is not empty, then we'll run this block. It's a for loop. But if requested topping, this test is failed, is empty, we'll run else block. Print, are you sure you want a plain pizza? So we run this. So the result is clear. Are you sure you want a plain pizza? Because the requested toppings here is an empty list. Using multiple lists. So we create two lists. One is available toppings, the other is requested toppings. Run this, create it. Then for each requested topping in requested toppings list, we'll have a conditional test. If this requested topping is in the available toppings list, then we'll print adding this topping, requested topping. But if it is not in available toppings, then we print sorry, we don't have this requested topping. We'll run this, see requested adding mushroom, sorry, we don't have French fries, adding extra cheese. It's clear that because the available toppings has no French fries. This is the final message outside of the for loop.